Hello, friends. This is Mike. Today's podcast is another shorter, more personal one. And what I want to do was share a story with you that kind of indicates where I was way before I started the whole spiritual awakening thing and the soul unleashed thing. And when I was a very rigid and paradigm-shaped individual in the Army. So this is kind of going to be an Army story as part of this podcast. Stand by. Hello again, friends and fellow truth seekers. Mike Nicholas here with another episode of the Soul Unleashed podcast, where my goal is to help you with the questions you might have regarding the awakening of your soul, and particularly to help other left brain types, like I think I am, ask the right questions in our search for a deeper meaning to life. Ultimately, I want to help you unleash your soul from limiting beliefs and smothering paradigms. So let's get started with today's brief adventure. This is, as I said, a story about the Army. And when I talk about growing up, and in my book, which is coming out shortly, in my book I talk about how I was shaped to be very rigid and very pragmatic, left brain type growing up. And part of that background is the Army. So I was a brand new second lieutenant. This was back in, I guess, the 1970s, late 70s. And I was assigned to a unit in Germany, and I was brand new and tank platoon leader, and I had 5 tanks, and I was on a training exercise with them. I had been a platoon leader there for about maybe 2 months. There's a place called Hohenfels, Germany, where we did this maneuver training. And the point of this was, you know, if you've seen war movies or the Dirty Dozen, there's kind of like the blue team and the red team or the orange team and the whatever. I forget what team we were, but anyway, we were a whole battalion of tanks fighting another battalion of tanks, and there were maneuver rules and maps and everything. And this is back in the day before GPS. So I had a map the size of my living room floor that I'd carefully put together and packed inside of a plastic map case. And in those days, we used maps like that with grease pencils to kind of draw controls, where we were supposed to go, that kind of stuff. This one particular night, we were in Hohenfels, and we had this, I forget what the mission was, but I was trying to navigate, and we were going down into this valley. Hohenfels is a very large, I don't know how many square miles, but it's a large maneuver area. And I could see the valley was covered in fog, and I thought, okay, we need to get from here to point A to over to there, point B, and I could kind of see where we needed to go. And the only thing I could use to navigate by, I kid you not, it was the stars. And so I picked a star that looked like it was kind of where we wanted to go, and then we went down to this fog. And the only thing I could see looking up the sky every now and then was this star. So we navigate. It seems silly now, with all the GPS and stuff that's out there, but we get across this valley safely, kind of where we're supposed to be, I think, and bam, we run right into this other tank platoon that is set up in an ambush waiting for us. But because I didn't exactly come out where I thought I was going to come out, we kind of came out right behind them. And man, we had a blast there for a little while. Now, in those days, the way you fought a tank battle was, these tanks are, 70-ton tanks. The way you fought was you had searchlights and you had Hoffman devices that were like explosions that go off and to simulate the main tank gun firing. And you've got these other devices on the side of your tank that shoot off smoke grenades and smoke canisters. And we were moving, shooting, and communicating, baby. And we were moving across, and I could tell my platoon was having a wild time because, we have this radio net that everybody's on, and they're all shouting and screaming. My tank commanders are, as we're moving, and we were fighting the barbarians or whatever. Flashlights and explosions gone off, and we go across this field, and it was my first experience, as a tank platoon leader, being in any type of even a simulated engagement. Moving with there were like 10, 15 tanks involved in this thing, and it was moving around in the dark with that many vehicles was exciting. So we got someplace. We got through these guys, and we crushed them. We kicked their ass, kind of thing. And I was full of myself. Right, my first big tank battle. I was a tank platoon leader. We get on this road, and it was a main road at Hohenfels, and I kind of knew where we were. I forget where I was supposed to be going, but we're going down this road, and my tanks are following me. So I'm the lead tank, and my 5 tanks are behind me. And man, we had just saved civilization and saved the free world, and we're going down this road at about 25 miles an hour with all these tanks. And one of my tank commanders in the back goes, "Hey, sir, he called me sir on the radio. I had a call sign, but he said whatever my call sign was, there's a Jeep behind us with a yellow light trying to pass us." Now, the yellow light Jeeps at Hohenfels, these were the guys that were the maneuver controllers. They were the umpires, if you will, for the whole battle. And I thought, awesome, maybe it's somebody coming to give me a medal for what we did. As you probably guessed by now, he was not there to give me a medal. But we're moving along, and he started passing the tanks, and I could see him coming up, and he's waving frantically at me. There were 2 guys in the Jeeps. The guy who was the passenger was waving at me, to stop. And so I pulled off a little bit the side of the road, and when we're maneuvering like this, it's very dark. You don't use your headlights, your tank headlights. They're called blackout lights. So they're so people can't, you're simulating being in combat, so you don't have headlights on. But anyway, it was very bright with this stupid yellow light this guy had on his Jeep. And I climbed down from my tank and puffing my chest out, ready to accept my medal. And this guy goes, he was a captain, and he goes, "Lieutenant, do you know where you are?" And right away, kind of warning bells went off, because nobody asks you that, especially not a captain, unless it's not a good thing. So I said, "Well, sir, I think I know where I am. I'm trying to go, over to here, and we just finished an engagement back there." And he goes, "I know what happened back there. I saw what happened back there." He said, "Every one of your tanks, including you, are dead." And I said, "Sir, I thought the engagement went really well, whatever." He said, "Lieutenant, you are driving in a river." So that road I was on was a river, according to the maneuver controls they had set up. And so it was something that had to be crossed. They had engineers there, and bridges and pontoon bridges, and those guys train too, and they create bridges across the river. Obviously I didn't know where I was, and I was tooling down a river with 5 tanks, and we were all dead. So he goes, "You're dead, and you're out of action for so many hours." He said, "Go to this point," and he showed me where to go to. "Turn your tank turns to the rear, to signify that you're all dead, and wait there for further instructions." So that's what we did. We drove down the river. It was okay, I guess, to use the river if you're dead. Drove down the river to this point that we had to set up and wait. And I didn't get a medal. And the ironic thing was that was probably the best. My platoon commanders and my tank commanders and my soldiers were very happy because all we did was sit in this area, this dead area, for about 5 hours. And man, when you're moving in these kind of engagements, you get very little time to sleep, very little time to take care of your personal needs, very little time to do anything. And we were sitting in this stupid little field. Our tank turned around. We didn't have to worry about security or guards or anything because we were dead. And they loved it. They would have stayed there for all 3 days of this thing if we could have stayed dead for 3 days. But eventually, I was rescued by my company commander, another captain, who was not all that happy when he saw me. And so that was my first engagement as a hot shot young platoon leader with my tank platoon. And at that time, and I talk about this in my book a little bit, is I was learning then through that exercise and many others, that there's you either win or you lose, or you're right or you're wrong. There's no middle ground. There's nothing. It was you're either on or off. It's very binary, if you will. And I had screwed up, and I paid the price for it. Both, my commander knew I was new and knew that I was a brand new lieutenant. This was my first engagement, whatever. And so he was pretty cool. I really liked him. Captain George Del Carlo was his name. And Captain Del Carlo was pretty cool. And, eventually went on to have a great time and a great little career there in Germany with that tank battalion, and got promoted and all that jazz. But that first experience I just wanted to share because I was a complete moron, and it was not the whole heroic thing that I thought it would be. And but just another step in my binary development as I was coming up through life. And then later, of course, and I talk about this in the book, is I learned after the passing of our son, and my whole life flipped around, is that, of course, there are things that I don't understand. There are areas that I don't understand. There are gray areas. There are things that happen beyond my five senses that I know that are out there now, without a doubt. But, back in those days when I was a dumb young second lieutenant, the only thing that mattered to me was my tanks, my platoon, and trying to do the right thing. So just wanted to share that with you. It's a little bit off topic. For some reason, I was inspired to talk about that today. There's something I saw or heard that jogged that memory for me, and I just wanted to share that with you. So that's all I have for today. Thank you very much. I have a whole bunch of interviews coming up that I'll be sharing with you. Some wonderful people that I'll be interviewing and sharing them one a week is my plan. And so I'll be doing that in the near future. Again, if you can like this podcast, that would really help me. And even better, if you leave a review, that would be super. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.